He was a billionaire, young, brilliant, and breathtakingly handsome. But beneath the glittering surface of his life was a deep loneliness that no amount of money could mend. His name was Ethan Mensah, the heir to one of Africa's largest conglomerates, a man whose wealth could buy almost anything except true love. From the outside, his world sparkled, a mansion overlooking the ocean, private jets, and luxury cars that lined his driveway like trophies. But Ethan had grown tired of smiling faces that hid deceit and affection that came with a price tag. Every woman he dated seemed drawn not to him, but to the fortune his name carried. His mother, Mama Grace, had watched her son become colder with each heartbreak. She saw the exhaustion in his eyes whenever another perfect woman revealed her true intentions. Mama Grace was a strong, wise woman, once a village teacher who'd taught her son humility before fortune found them. She knew the world had changed him, but she still believed love could reach him, if it was real. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the estate, Ethan sat by the glass wall of his study, swirling a glass of scotch. "Mother," he said bitterly, "they're all the same. Every single one of them. They see me, they see money. Nothing else." Mama Grace studied him quietly. "Then maybe, my son, you're showing them too much of what you have and not enough of who you are." Ethan looked at her, puzzled. "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly. "Let them meet Ethan the man, not Ethan the billionaire. And maybe, let me see who they really are." That night, Mama Grace began to form a plan, one that would test every woman who stepped into her son's world. A few days later, Ethan decided to host a charity event, a dazzling affair at his estate, where guests from across the city would attend. But this time, among the maids and servers preparing for the event was a new cleaner, humble, quiet, wearing a simple uniform and scarf. No one knew she was Ethan's mother. Mama Grace had traded her elegant dresses for worn-out slippers and rubber gloves. She moved silently through the mansion, dusting tables and wiping marble floors, observing every guest who arrived. The first woman, Vanessa, arrived in a gold dress that shimmered like the sun. Her laughter filled the air, but her eyes wandered greedily across the hall, at the diamonds, the art, the men with power. When she saw Ethan, her lips curled into a perfect smile. "Mr. Mensah," she purred, "you're even more handsome in person." Mama Grace noticed how Vanessa brushed past the servers as if they were invisible. When she accidentally bumped into her, Vanessa's glare was sharp. "Watch where you're going, woman," she hissed, not realizing she'd just insulted the billionaire's mother. Later that evening, another woman arrived, Amara, dressed simply, her smile warm but modest. She wasn't from a wealthy background. She worked at a local orphanage. She'd met Ethan through a friend who told her he was a philanthropist. Unlike the others, Amara didn't rush to impress. Instead, she spoke softly, asking about his foundation and the children it helped. Mama Grace watched her carefully. When Amara noticed her struggling to carry a tray of glasses, she hurried over. "Let me help you," Amara said kindly. The cleaner tried to refuse, but Amara insisted, smiling. "No job is too small when we're all working together." That moment, Mama Grace's heart warmed. She hadn't seen genuine kindness like that in years, not in the glittering circles that surrounded her son. After the event, Ethan approached his mother, still unaware she'd been among the staff. "So," he asked, "did you see anyone worth knowing?" Mama Grace looked thoughtful. "One or two. But I need more time." And so, the test continued. Over the next few weeks, Ethan invited several women to his home under various pretexts: charity discussions, business brunches, even casual lunches. Mama Grace remained the silent observer, polishing floors, cleaning tables, pouring tea, all while watching how each woman treated those around them. Some ignored her entirely. Others ordered her around, assuming her to be a servant with no importance. But Amara, she stood out every time. Once, when Ethan left the room, Amara noticed Mama Grace's hands trembling as she tried to lift a heavy vase. She rushed to help again, offering a gentle smile. "You remind me of my mother," she said softly. "She worked so hard all her life. People often forget the ones who make things shine behind the scenes." Those words stayed with Mama Grace. One evening, when Ethan was alone in his study, Mama Grace finally removed her scarf and gloves and entered. Ethan looked up, startled, then burst into laughter. Mother, you've been, what? Pretending to be my cleaner. She smiled, but her eyes were serious. Yes, my son. I wanted to see who sees you. Not your name, not your money, but you. Ethan leaned back, half amused, half amazed. And what did you find? Mama Grace's expression softened. Most of them saw your world and wanted a piece of it. But one saw your heart, even when she didn't know who I was. Amara. Ethan's brow furrowed. The woman from the orphanage? Yes, Mama Grace said firmly. She helped me when others didn't even see me. She treated everyone with respect. That, my son, is the kind of woman who deserves to stand beside you. Ethan was silent, his mind spinning. But if I tell her the truth now, won't she feel deceived? Mama Grace smiled knowingly. The truth doesn't scare honest hearts, only dishonest ones. And so, the next day, Ethan decided to see for himself. He visited the orphanage unannounced, without his expensive suit, without the luxury car, just a simple shirt and jeans. Amara was tending to a group of children, her laughter echoing through the hall. When she saw him, her face lit up, but not with awe, with warmth. Ethan, you came. I wanted to help, he said quietly, and to know more about what you do here. They spent the afternoon painting walls, fixing toys, and serving food. Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years, peace. No judgment, no games, just connection. That night, when he returned home, his mother was waiting on the veranda. So, she asked with a knowing smile. Ethan looked out at the horizon. She didn't ask about my cars. Or my money. Just my hands, if I could paint straight lines. Mama Grace chuckled softly. That's the woman who will never see you as a wallet. But fate was not done testing them yet. The days that followed felt different for Ethan. For the first time in years, he found himself waking up with purpose. Not to chase another deal or sign another contract, but to spend time at the orphanage, to listen to the laughter of children, and to watch Amara's quiet grace as she moved through her world. She was nothing like the women he had known before. She didn't try to impress him, she inspired him. He began helping with the children's school supplies, organizing medical checkups, and even cooking meals on weekends. It was in these simple moments that Ethan felt alive again, the walls of wealth and loneliness around his heart slowly crumbling. Yet, a shadow of fear still lingered. Amara didn't know who he truly was. He wasn't just Ethan, the volunteer. He was Ethan Mensah, the billionaire she saw on television screens and billboards. He worried that revealing the truth too soon might shatter everything they'd built. One afternoon, as the sun bathed the orphanage courtyard in golden light, Amara sat beside him, her eyes full of thought. You know, she began softly, you never talk much about your family. Don't they miss you? Ethan hesitated, feeling the weight of his secret press against his chest. My mother and I were close. She's wise, stubborn, and loves to test me. Amara laughed, a gentle sound that filled the air. She sounds like a good woman. She is, Ethan said quietly, thinking of Mama Grace disguised in her cleaner's uniform, watching everything unfold. She always knows what's best, even when I don't see it. Amara smiled. Then you're lucky. Some of us only dream of that kind of family. Ethan turned to her, curiosity in his eyes. What about yours? Her gaze fell to the ground. My parents died when I was a teenager. The orphanage became my home. I stayed to help others who had no one. It's not easy, but it gives my life meaning. Ethan felt something stir within him, admiration mixed with guilt. Here was a woman who had known hardship, yet carried light within her. And he, surrounded by abundance, had often felt empty. That evening, as he drove back to his mansion, the question gnawed at him. When should I tell her? Mama Grace was waiting for him at the gate, seated in her favorite chair, the night breeze rustling her shawl. You've been quiet, she observed, her eyes studying him. I can't keep lying to her, mother, he confessed. She deserves the truth. Mama Grace nodded slowly. She does. But remember, my son, truth is a seed. If you plant it too soon, it may not grow. Wait for the right moment. Ethan sighed, torn between honesty and fear. What if she hates me for deceiving her? She won't hate you, Mama Grace said softly. If her heart is pure, she'll understand. But if she doesn't, then you'll know her love was never meant for you. The next week, Ethan's world took an unexpected turn. A photograph of him at the orphanage surfaced on social media, taken by someone who recognized him. It spread quickly, captioned, Billionaire Ethan Mensah spotted volunteering at a rundown orphanage. Asterisk. When Amara saw it, she froze. Her phone buzzed nonstop with messages from friends asking if she knew who he really was. Confused and hurt, she left the orphanage early and walked aimlessly down the quiet streets. That evening, Ethan arrived with a box of supplies, only to find her gone. One of the caretakers handed him the phone, showing him the viral photo. His heart sank. He knew what this meant. When he found Amara sitting on a bench under a jacaranda tree, her face was unreadable. The purple petals around her glowed faintly under the streetlights. "So it's true," she said softly, not looking at him. "You're that Ethan Mensah." Ethan took a step forward, his voice low. "Amara, I was going to tell you. I didn't want you to treat me differently. I wanted you to know me, not the man in the headlines." Her eyes glistened with tears. "Do you know what it feels like to think someone is like you? Simple, genuine, and then realize it was all a lie?" "It wasn't a lie," he pleaded. "I just didn't tell you everything." She stood, her hands trembling. "But everything changes now, doesn't it? People like you. You live in a world where people like me don't belong." "Don't say that," Ethan said desperately. "You belong more than anyone I've ever met." But she shook her head and walked away, leaving him standing beneath the tree, his heart breaking for the first time, not from betrayal, but from his own mistake. When he returned home, Mama Grace was waiting at the doorway. One look at her son's face, and she knew. "She found out," Ethan said bitterly. Mama Grace sighed deeply. "The truth always finds its way out, my son. But love, true love, takes time to find its way back." Days passed in silence. Ethan threw himself into work, but every corner of the mansion reminded him of Amara, her laughter, her kindness, the way she'd spoken to his mother when she was disguised as a cleaner. Mama Grace, too, seemed quieter than usual. She missed seeing her son smile. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. The orphanage director arrived at Ethan's office, holding a letter. "Amara asked me to deliver this to you," he said gently. Ethan took the envelope, his hands trembling. Inside, the letter was short, written in her neat handwriting. Asterisk. "Ethan, I don't hate you. I was hurt, yes, but I understand now why you hid who you were. I've seen the man behind the wealth, and I know your heart. Still, I need time. Time to trust that your world won't change mine. Please don't look for me yet. When I'm ready, I'll find you." Asterisk. He read those words over and over, feeling both pain and hope stirring within him. Mama Grace found him later, the letter still in his hand. "She wrote to you?" He nodded. "She said she needs time." Mama Grace smiled faintly. "Then give her that. Time has a way of proving what love really is." Weeks turned into months. Ethan didn't try to contact her again, though his thoughts never strayed far. He poured his energy into improving the orphanage, expanding its facilities, providing new books, building dormitories, all anonymously, never attaching his name. One evening, during the opening ceremony of the new wing, he stood quietly at the back, watching the children play. That's when he saw her, Amara, standing near the doorway, her eyes scanning the crowd. When she spotted him, their gazes locked for a long, silent moment. She walked toward him slowly, her expression unreadable. Ethan's heart raced. "You came," he whispered. "I came," she said softly, "because I saw what you did, not as the billionaire, but as the man who cares." He took a hesitant step closer. "Amara, don't say anything yet," she interrupted gently. "Let's just start again. No secrets this time." And before Ethan could speak, a small child tugged at Amara's dress, asking her to join the others in cutting the ribbon. She smiled at Ethan and turned toward the children, her laughter floating in the air, the same laughter that had first drawn him to her. Mama Grace watched from a distance, tears welling in her eyes. She leaned against her cane and whispered to herself, "Now he knows." It was never about testing them. It was about teaching him what love truly looks like. But as she turned to leave, a black car pulled up at the gate, a figure stepping out in a suit that radiated arrogance and familiarity. Mama Grace's smile faded as the man approached. It was someone from Ethan's past, a name long buried but not forgotten. And when Ethan saw him, the light in his eyes dimmed, for this man carried secrets that could shatter everything, including the fragile love that had just begun to bloom again. The air around the orphanage grew heavy as the black car door closed with a slow, deliberate thud. The man who stepped out was Lucas Owusu, Ethan's former business partner, the one who had nearly destroyed his company years ago with betrayal and greed. His sharp smile and piercing eyes were like venom wrapped in charm. Every step he took toward Ethan and Mama Grace seemed to echo with unfinished business. Ethan Mensah, Lucas said, his voice smooth but laced with menace. Still playing the good man, I see. A billionaire dressed in humility. How touching. Ethan's jaw tightened, his body stiff with restrained anger. What do you want, Lucas? Lucas chuckled, looking around the orphanage. I heard about your little charity project. The golden-hearted savior of orphans. But I didn't come for the children. I came for you. Mama Grace moved closer to her son, her hand resting lightly on his arm, a silent warning not to lose his temper. You've done enough damage in the past, she said sharply. Leave him alone. But Lucas only smirked. Oh, I didn't come to fight. I came to reveal. His eyes flicked toward Amara, who stood a few steps away, confusion written across her face. Does she know, Ethan? Does she know how your money was built? Does she know who you were before this act of kindness? Ethan's heart pounded. Lucas's words carried poison, half-truths meant to wound. He saw Amara's uncertain eyes, the flicker of doubt he feared most. Stop it, Ethan said through clenched teeth. You're twisting the past. The past. Lucas laughed bitterly. You mean the factories we built together? The deals you walked away from after my downfall? You left me to take the blame for something we both profited from. That's not true, Ethan said firmly. You embezzled funds and used my name to cover your trail. I didn't walk away. I rebuilt from nothing after you ruined us. Amara looked between them, her voice trembling. Ethan, is any of this true? He turned to her, pain etched in every line of his face. Amara, listen to me. Years ago, I made mistakes, trusted the wrong people. Lucas nearly destroyed everything. But I learned from that. It's why I live differently now. Why I built this orphanage. I'm not hiding from my past. I'm atoning for it. Lucas snorted. Atone all you want. You can't buy redemption, Ethan. But Mama Grace stepped forward, her eyes blazing. You're wrong, she said, her voice carrying the quiet authority of a woman who had endured much. Redemption isn't bought. It's lived, day after day, through choices that change hearts. And my son has been doing exactly that, while you, Lucas, still cling to bitterness. For a moment, silence hung thick between them. The children nearby watched curiously from a distance, sensing the tension but not understanding its weight. Lucas's smile faltered. You think love will save you, he sneered. You think this woman, he gestured toward Amara, will stay by your side when she knows the kind of man you really are? Amara stepped forward, her chin lifting with quiet strength. I know enough, she said. I've seen the man he is now, and that's the only truth that matters to me. The firmness in her voice struck like lightning. Ethan looked at her, astonished, her courage anchoring him in that storm of accusation. Lucas blinked, momentarily thrown off balance. His words faltered. Leave, Mama Grace said coldly. You've done enough damage to this family. Leave before I forget my manners. Lucas hesitated, his pride wounded by the calm dignity in her tone. With a bitter smirk, he turned and walked back to his car, his shadow receding into the night. But before getting in, he looked over his shoulder. Don't think the world forgets, Ethan. It never does. The car engine roared to life and disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind a heavy stillness. Ethan stood quietly, his shoulders slumped, his heart pounding with the weight of old wounds and new fears. He turned slowly to Amara, expecting reproach or retreat. Instead, she stepped closer, her eyes soft but steady. I don't care what you were, she said gently. I care who you've become. And if the man you are today is the one I've come to know, then that's enough. Ethan's breath caught. Amara. But before he could speak more, she placed her hand over his. You've spent your life surrounded by people who wanted your wealth. Maybe it's time you let someone love you for your scars. Tears pricked Ethan's eyes, not of sadness, but of release. For the first time, he felt seen. Truly seen. Mama Grace watched them from a distance, her heart swelling with pride. This was the ending she had prayed for. Not wealth, not fame, but peace for her son's restless soul. Days passed, and the memory of Lucas's visit faded into the background as the orphanage thrived. Ethan and Amara worked side by side, not as billionaire and caretaker, but as equals, building something meaningful together. The walls of the orphanage echoed with laughter and hope. But Mama Grace, ever the quiet visionary, knew her role wasn't over. One evening, as she sat on the veranda watching the sunset, Amara joined her. "You planned everything, didn't you?" Amara asked softly, pretending to be a cleaner, testing the women, guiding him back here. Mama Grace chuckled, her eyes twinkling. "I didn't plan love, my dear. That's God's work. I only cleared the path for it to walk in." Amara smiled. "He's lucky to have you." "No," Mama Grace said, shaking her head. "He's lucky to have you. You saw him when the world only saw his fortune." Silence fell between them, peaceful and warm. The horizon blazed in shades of orange and gold, and the laughter of children carried through the air like a hymn. Later that night, Ethan joined them, sitting between his mother and Amara. For a while, they said nothing, just watched the stars appear one by one. Then Ethan spoke softly, his voice carrying gratitude and wonder. "Mother, I used to think love was a risk I couldn't afford. But now I see, love isn't a risk. It's the only thing worth trusting." Mama Grace smiled. "You had to lose the wrong people to find the right one. That's how life teaches wisdom." He turned to Amara. "You showed me that love isn't something money can buy or status can earn. It's built in small moments. Kindness, patience, truth." Amara met his gaze, her eyes shimmering. "And forgiveness," she whispered. He nodded. "And forgiveness." As the night deepened, a soft rain began to fall, not a storm, but a gentle drizzle that washed the world clean. The children ran out, dancing and laughing under the raindrops. Amara joined them, spinning with joy as the rain soaked her hair and dress. Ethan watched her, a smile breaking across his face, and something inside him healed. Mama Grace stood behind him, whispering a prayer of thanks. Her test had not just revealed truth, it had restored her son's humanity. But fate, unpredictable as ever, wasn't finished weaving their story. A few weeks later, news broke that Lucas had been arrested, his empire collapsing under years of corruption and deceit. In a twist of irony, the one he'd tried to destroy was now helping the very children his schemes had once exploited. Ethan quietly used his resources to ensure that Lucas's victims were compensated, not out of vengeance, but justice. When the world learned what he'd done, the press called him the redeemed billionaire. But Ethan ignored the headlines. For him, the real redemption lay in simpler things: Amara's laughter, his mother's peace, the children's joy. And yet, beneath all the calm, Mama Grace felt something deeper stirring, the knowledge that her son's life was only beginning. She saw how Ethan looked at Amara, not with desire alone, but with reverence, as if he'd finally found home in another soul. One evening, as they stood together watching the children sleep, Ethan took Amara's hand and whispered, "You once told me I belong where I'm needed. I think I've finally found that place, right here, with you." Amara's eyes filled with tears. "And I found mine, in the heart I never thought I could trust again." Behind them, Mama Grace smiled in silence, her gaze drifting toward the stars. She had always believed that wealth meant nothing if it didn't build love. Now, watching them, she knew her belief had been proven true. The mansion that once echoed with emptiness now rang with laughter. The man who once doubted love now lived it every day. And the woman who once tested hearts had finally seen hers at peace. The world outside would still chase gold, status, and appearances, but inside that small orphanage, under the wide African sky, something far richer had been found. Love that needed no disguise. Love that had passed every test. Love that, in the end, made even a billionaire bow his head in gratitude. And as the night breeze whispered through the trees, Mama Grace closed her eyes and smiled, knowing her mission, and her son's, had finally come full circle.